What's going on, everyone? We're back with more developing. It's another beautiful day inside, as always. Doesn't change that much. The conditions, climate, well, I mean, depends on the climate outside. But it's a beautiful day inside. I'm hyper caffeinated today. Like I have pre-workout coursing through my veins right now. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I am like borderline zooted right now. Definitionally. No cap. We're gonna keep working on the chemistry engine today. I feel like I need to like do stuff. You know, whenever I consume too much caffeine by accident, my mind is like, it's just like looking into a tunnel where I'm doing like everything I need to. I'm like hyper productive. I do everything I need to do, like stream and not have a low energy stream. Do a bunch of random shit. Do the laundry. Do this. Do that. Develop a game in a couple hours while you're at it. Do some other shit. Make a random item of clothing for some reason. It's like, I feel like I could do so many things, but obviously I need to like find a way to direct it. Okay, this is me right now. I need to find a way to direct this energy, and I'm going to direct all of this energy, these atomic levels of energy. I'm going to direct them into this stream. This is going to be, well, I mean, I feel energized right now, basically. I mean, I kind of wish I could feel like this all the time, just like I can do anything. Although I feel like if I used this energy to like watch YouTube or something like that, it would be bad. Because then I would get caught. I don't even know, like, could I even do that? I don't even know if I could do that. I feel like it kind of, having this level of caffeine running through your veins demands that you do something. You do some sort of, like, you do some sort of behavior. You, oh my god. You have effects. It demands you affect the world around you. The language in today's stream might be a little bit more flowery, okay? It might be a little more incoherent. But that is the spice of the live streaming life. That is the spice of the gamer life, okay? As we all know. This is a fact. We all know this. Yeah, I kind of wish, well, I mean, at the same time, it's like, should I need to, you know, pump my body full of caffeine in order to feel like I can easily, feasibly, you know, do the day's tasks? Probably not, but we live in a caffeinated world, don't we? It's a caffeinated world. Okay, what are we going to do today? We're going to keep working on the chemistry engine. This is the second time I've said this. I need to fix this bug. I just added the barrels back in because I was testing the spiders. Is this my old command prompt system? It must be. Well, anyways, let's run into a barrel. What's up, Redstone? You caught me on a very interesting day. I am zooted right now. No, I had too much caffeine. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good. How are you? That answers your question. I'm gonna keep inventing the universe on the computer. Is it your birthday? I could be. You know, it feels like my spiritual birthday today. It feels like Christmas. Gamer Christmas. That's what it feels like right now. Okay, I could do this. I could sustain this level of energy without caffeine. I just have to normalize it. But right now, I'm just like I'm more prone to go in that direction because, oh, there's lights and stimulation and I must respond. I feel extra obliged to respond when I'm under the influence of not drugs, of caffeine. So yeah, I mean, it's Merry Christmas. Happy birthday to all of you. Do you ever have Monster? No. In fact, I've actually had to reduce the amount of caffeine I consume like once a week on Mondays, because Mondays are the big day where I do many things. And since I've started concentrating it specifically to that day, it actually has become a day where I feel more energized and like better overall. So, however, I'm not consuming so much where I become immune to the effects and then just feel tired. Like I develop a dependency, I feel tired for the rest of the week. So I've found a good balance there. Although I definitely took a little too much today. So right now, the atoms in my brain are symbolically separating and creating great energy potentials, or maybe they're acting on great energy potentials. I just like coffee as a flavor. I like the deepness of it. I like coffee beans. I don't like coffee water. Although, I mean, if we really want to get fundamental about it, what does liking it mean? You know, like I like the taste of coffee. I can appreciate the taste of coffee beans and not be like repulsed by it, but I don't want to eat like a bowl of coffee beans. That would be awful. That would suck. And then of course, coffee water. I mean, I guess I can drink it, but I really don't like the taste. If I want to talk about things that I like the taste of that aren't just like cake and sugar and just like, brain stimulants, pure brain stimulants, I kind of like acidic tastes, so kind of like the taste of vinegar. What else? Black licorice, although that does have sugar in it typically, though. Various things. I like pink pickled onions. Pink pickled onions are so good. We need to standardize them or something in American cuisine. You know, when you just wake up, it's winter, and you drink some nice warm coffee and get to deving. Though that is vibes. That is vibes. In fact, wintertime, you may even throw in some hot chocolate. That's right. We're gonna be brave in this stream. We're gonna be brave. We're gonna win and stuff. No, wintertime, I definitely prefer wintertime to any other season. It is probably the best. Probably the best. You ever had some fish and chips with vinegar? No, I don't think so. Although I do like salt and vinegar chips. It is generally my favorite flavor of chip. Sounds like you'd like it. Shall ship you some. Yes, please. Please send me the fish. Send me the fish through the mail. Send it in one of those paper parcels that you can get from like the post office. Straight from the local chippy, yeah. Don't plate it or anything like that. Just send it, put it in the bubble wrap. Okay, put the fish in the bubble wrap and the chips, the fries. Okay, this is America. And send it through that parcel. I've had fish and chips before, but not with vinegar. It's usually with tartar sauce or I guess it would be tartar sauce. There's so many sauces to keep track of. It's stupid. Steak fries, if anything. I've only had fish and chips like 8 times in my life, so I can't deduce what the most likely outcome would be, given like my region. I know, fake fish and chips fan. Called out. I've had it at least 120. Those are decent numbers for sure. I wonder how many times I've had a burger at a restaurant. Probably like at least 80 times. At least 80 burgers. I wonder what the most common item is that I get. It depends on the restaurant, of course, but like I tend to go for barbecue-esque items, subs. But yeah, it really depends. I've had at least 100 burgers. I don't know. Making me sound fat. It's only 20 more. I mean, I could be complete. My number could be like 550, and that's only for like sit down restaurant. Like, I would like a burger, please. I would like the fancy burger where you put the egg on it, please. My good waiter. That exact delivery. You know what? You know what should be conversed? I'm not going to do any developing today, by the way. This is going to be a pure conversational stream. You know what should be acknowledged by society? The fact that chairs in restaurants do not have good back support, especially the booths, okay? I don't want to go in a restaurant and have my back be hunched forward by 20 degrees, like being pushed by like the top section. Meanwhile, my lower back, because the pad doesn't go all the way down to like the base of the chair where like my rear would be. It doesn't go all the way down there, so there's like a like this concave bullshit that like it's messed up. It's messed up. It should be a crime. We need to start prosecuting for these things. I haven't done a single developing thing in this stream, and I feel like it's going great so far. I should do this more often. Also, I think I should probably start stream earlier, because I feel like if I have to wait until like 8 o'clock every single day, sometimes I can kind of lose some momentum. I mean, I'm more tired towards the end of the day, so I kind of like to just start it when I can. So maybe I'll move the schedule back or like make it more flexible or something like that. All right, what do we got? What do we got going on here? Invalid access to property or key tags on a base object of type null instance. Why are you doing this? So the only time we got this issue is when we started creating the instances through the atmosphere, which is evil, apparently. It's the system, right? Target system, L system. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Exactly what was it? Oh my god, I forgot. That's not good. Oh no. This is the trade-off of consuming caffeine. You're just kind of like scatterbrained. Like, you can do so much, but like, it's harder to focus. You become hyperactive. But there's like a deficit in the amount of attention you can concentrate at a specific task. I also wonder if I should do more Kenshi streams. If that's gonna be a thing. I started a new playthrough off stream, and I've been building my empire. What is going on with your game then? Right now, I gotta ask you. I want to know what's going on with your game, Redstone, because I think your game is more interesting to me than my game is interesting to me. But right now it's going well. It's going kind of slow, but it's going well. I'm working on a chemistry engine, or I'm remaking the chemistry engine for the game. And surprisingly, I have been able to like push through the issue where it just becomes increasingly more and more complex. And I think I've been able to find a good balance between like emergence and not the insane simulating the universe approach. Multiplayer destruction, polish, little features here and there. Multiplayer. Oh yeah. I thought you'd already added multiplayer to your game before, but I did not know that was something you were working on recently and or added recently. Polish little features here and there, yeah. But yeah, I've been looking in the Discord every now and then. Looks like it's coming along well. Have you been checking in the Carbix server? I actually have. Well, I think I checked in the Carbix server once, but I was mainly checking in the PK421 server. But I could check in the Carbix server for sure. Destroying the environment. Okay. Element. Okay. Dot element. Dot tags. Really? Component. Dot element. Huh. I love the art in your game. That's good, because I wasn't sure if the art was good or not. I think it's definitely improved. But I'm trying to, I'm still kind of trying to let the game find its voice. And I kind of like some of the promotional art I made for Steam. So I think I'm going to influence the art style in that direction. Have you seen the new player model added? I have not. I have not seen that yet. I must say though, I really don't like working in 2D. You can do so much more with 3D. Like in game development, oftentimes you want to approximate or represent some sort of real world phenomena in some ways, because video games in many ways are just like echoes of our own experiences, in the sense that, like, hey, I want to make a parkour system because parkour is something you can do in real life. It's inspired by real life experiences. So that's what I mean when I say that. And as such, you oftentimes want to replicate real world circumstances to a certain degree, realism of a game. And in a 3D workflow, you're much more easily able to represent things in a real life way than in a 2D workflow. So if you are a developer who likes to make a lot of emergent systems and likes to sort of provide that connection to like that real world experience a lot, like myself, then I also just have more experience with 3D workflows, but you can do so much more in them. Now, does this mean that a 4-dimensional workflow could be preferable to a 3-dimensional workflow? I don't know. I'm not sure. Teleportation could be a cool mechanic if you have some sort of engine that allows you to just like seamlessly stream in other elements from different parts of the world, different parts of the game. That could add a lot of potential there. But no, I prefer the 3D workflow more. I feel like you get a lot more bang for my buck in terms of like making 3D models. You can represent them from like any angle. It feels nicer. If you're making like a narrative game though, or something that doesn't require 3D stuff for any, whatever reason, I mean 2D can do things. 2D can do things. It's a matter of what you want for your games in general as well. And generally I like doing more of the real world inspired stuff. And I do also think you have more options with 3D. For sure. It's more dynamic. It's interesting though, because it kind of sounds like what I'm saying is that 3D workflow gives you more options than the 2D workflow, which it does. But that kind of sounds like I'm saying it's superior to the 2D workflow, which, if superior means like people ought to use 3D generally, then no, that's not what I'm saying. Right, it was the element that was not working. So lcomponent.element equals component.element. Get directional contents. Singleton.system.get directional contents. Do we have anything in the atmosphere yet? Hello? We do. We have oxygen. Okay, let me console.print new line lcomponent.element. Run the freaking project. I need to do some optimizations. Me too. I have really slow like chunk loading speeds. I feel like because I've done literally no optimization so far, I'm gonna be able to optimize things pretty easily because there's probably a lot to fix. There's gonna be a lot of opportunities with a large amount of bricks. Yeah. Sometimes I like fantasize about the ultimate 3D setup where like every single object is like integrated into one shader so you can run everything in like a single draw call. I mean, it's got to be possible. With just like the way shaders are structured and everything, you can have, well, I don't know how many draw calls you could get away with. You might only need like 12 different shaders in a game though. And assuming you know, at the very least get one draw call per shader, you could have like a game running off of 12 draw calls. It would be OP. Combine that with like a dynamic level of detail so you could just do anything. Like Unreal Engine's whatever it's called, I forget, but where it like automatically generates or like creates a level of detail for high poly geometry as you get farther away from it. Like you could do so much. I really want to create my own engine, but it's going to be a large undertaking. All right, what the hell am I trying to do? Nanite, yeah, that's what it's called. I wonder what Unreal Engine is up to right now. I haven't seen any like cool tech demos recently. Maybe that's just my algorithm. Maybe YouTube knows that I've become a good doite at this point. Okay, well that's returning a resource. Um, what the hell is going on? Let's test it in Godot. Do components have IDs? Invalid access. Wrong. Incorrect. Localized systems.has target system.id equals false. I mean, where's it even getting this data structure? To like try and index the element of a component when it doesn't have one. Like anytime we're making a component, we're giving it an element. Unless the element is going out of scope or something like that, I don't understand, you know, how this could be happening. Hold on. L system.components.append. No, we're still getting the directional contents. I could try printing it down there to see if anything has changed. Target system.volume. We're not doing any volume calculations yet. Which we should do. Should do that at some point. Although I can tell a lot of the stuff is going to change as like we research different formulas and stuff like that. Did it print the thing? Okay, it did. Reactant.component. What is the reactant? It's ID 0. Interesting. Component? Element? No. Gas constant. We get any information about this? Parent is also null. Interesting. Why? I don't think we'd ever be setting the parent to null. It's also the first element being made, which is interesting. Or the first component. First component, I think. Yeah. Which leads me to think it has nothing to do with this. This ready function. System.initialize in null. Could be something there, perhaps. Okay, print system dot what? Okay, get directional contents vector 3 dot up 0 dot element. What will this do? It's tea time. I've been doing sewing stuff off stream. I'm trying to learn how to do darning, which is where you basically like make an array. You just sit there for like 7 hours and you make an array of like interconnecting threads. So you can like patch a hole in a garment. It's really awesome. It's like playing Minecraft. It's like building a large building in Minecraft when you have to like, fill in the roof or fill in the blocks, right? It's like just that same repetitive, like mindless task. It can be uh psychologically beneficial in certain contexts. Like you sit down, you put a podcast on, you get your sewing project going. You have a third arm so you can drink a delicious beverage while you're doing it. Okay, wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a different activity than something like guitar, where you are like actively trying to accomplish something. Similar in some ways, but different in many others. We also probably need to work on the physics a little bit for the dragon. There's a lot we need. There's a lot of things we have to do. What can I say? That's also returning a resource. What the heck? Okay, well maybe the ID is just not initializing. Maybe it's not actually the first thing. Yeah, that would actually kind of make more sense. Reactant. Force. We actually do have a force here. Component. Element. Empty. Oh no. My brain is making connections. My brain is connecting. Guys. What? 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 Resource file not found. But why would that make the ID 0? I guess if it just stops the thread. Okay, well, I'm thinking the problem is here. This is why I don't like using absolute file paths. They're evil, and you get this kind of shit. You get cryptic, random bugs. You don't know where they're coming from. It's evil. Evil. Don't do it. Don't ever do it. Okay, where is our wood? Copy absolute path. Yes, please. No. Oh my god, that's too absolute. Just the normal path, please. Thank you. Right, so anytime we move anything anywhere or rename it, it destroys the entire project, essentially. So that's cool. That's why I like using depending on resources wherever possible, because this is like stupid. Fortunately, we are sort of moving in that direction with some of the stuff we're doing. I really need to make like a universal asset processor or something. Okay, well, will this fix it? I don't know if this is enough to fix everything that we were encountering. Also, we were getting some sort of problem with the skeleton, although I guess the barrel doesn't really have a skeleton, so that might just be something we have to, like, amend there. Okay, let's try this again. Let me showcase my various threads. Hold on. Oh my god. Yeah, you also just, like, stab yourself a bunch when you're sewing. But it's, like, very minor stab. It's, like, very small stabs, so it doesn't really matter. It's interesting. Guys. Please focus. Enhance. Damn it. It says zoology on it. It says zoology. Okay, because I'm a scholar of the sewing. I'm a scholar of the drip arts. The art of the drip, okay? Check that out. Most interesting thing you've ever seen. You can look in the hole. You're going into the hole. Oh, now it focuses, huh? What the hell? I don't know how light works. I don't know how cameras work. And then, all right, and then, get out of here, sparkling ice. You have this. Exactly. Not the hole. There's another hole. It never ends. Oh, the horror. No, oh, this one you can see through, though. So it's like it's a different kind of hole. There's possibilities. There's hope. The dichotomy of the holes is what we will call this day. Or this moment. This idea, this concept. It's also, you can also think of it as a tube. Okay, it has a hole opening. It's a tube. Could clean up the threads a little bit. God, I hate sewing so much sometimes, though. Like when it gets knots in it, like when you're trying to sew and then your thread gets like a knot in it and you have to like you have to do like heart surgery, but even more precise to like unthread the thing. I feel like if you're making a video game that had like skills you could level up, and one of them was sewing and another one was open heart surgery, you should be able to get some level of open heart surgery experience from sewing, because they both require so much precision. Sewing is, I mean, I wonder what like the most precise action is, like smallest scale, maybe like designing some kind of figurine, but no, sewing can be pretty, like you can be working with like a grain of sand sized thing when you're trying to unknot something in sewing. It is probably the most microscopic task humans can handle without any sort of like optical technological assistance, like a microscope or something like that. Trying to return an array of type array. Oh no! Why would you do this? I knew this was going to be a problem. I knew it. I knew it. I'm pretty sure I like said this or something at some point. Okay. Why do we have to do it this way? So stupid. This is hurting my developer brain. or it's hurting my developer soul, I should say. The thing that makes us developers human. I thought about what makes us human a little bit, and I think it's kind of like, it's not very useful to ask what makes us human, because you can answer that. Like, in terms of, like, how should one live their life? Asking what makes you a human is not very helpful. Like, you could say, oh, well, like, if the question is, what is the purpose of life? And your response is, well, you have DNA, and you have fingers, and, like, just a giant list of, like, I guess, anthropological observations. It's like, okay, thanks for nothing, I guess. Although, maybe I'm strawmanning the concept to begin with. Because if I interpret it in, like, what makes us human? Kind of one way to think about it, I guess, is, like, we have emotions, right? It's not just, like rational thinking, like Reddit atheist brain. No, we have emotions to go alongside of it in our amygdala. I was performatively mispronouncing it. I know how to pronounce amygdala. Okay. And we can define meaning through the rational side of it. Like, there is no objective meaning. We can also kind of define, we can kind of do the same thing using the emotional side of our brain. Okay, if you play Disco Elysium, it helps sort of structure the concept. Like, you have some preconceived things to help with this. Or I guess human biology, anatomy. But we have, like, multiple cores in our brain, right? Like, we have the CPU, the GPU, and they handle different things. Like, it's interesting because this could be completely incorrect, by the way, but I'm just going to say it. Our brains. So, like, we have the lizard section, the module, right? And then the human brain from that was like an explosion. It, like, grew out from that, right? So now we get all these DLCs. We get, like, hey, I'm alive. And we get, like, hey, I'm kind of sad right now. Or, hey, whoa, this is awesome. Oh my God. Or, like, whoa, that's so deep. We get these DLCs, right? Where am I going with this? But no, each part of the brain kind of is like its own autonomous, like, being that has a different interpretation of meaning. This sounds like really, the words I'm using make this sound like some really abstract concept or like some cryptic bullshit, but no. What I'm saying is our different parts of our brain contribute to our perception in different ways. So the rational part of our brain is contributing meaning as, like, oh, what's the reason, what's the XYZ, what's the coordinates, what vectors can I deduce from my peripheral or my code of vision. And then there's, like, the emotional side, which is like, I'm doing the voice for some reason. It defines its experience, its meaning in a different way. And it's still, like, part of us. Like, it's still consequential to what we are. And, you know, you can choose to listen to these different parts of your brain to, like, drive you, right? So maybe, I don't know what the hell the more primitive parts of the brain do, like the more reptilian parts of the brain do, maybe, like, very basic instincts. They don't yield a lot of perceptive elements, right? Like, maybe you get, like, the sense of touch from those more, you know, basic parts of your brain, or, like, primitive, I guess, original. They've been there longer in the evolutionary timeline. I don't know how much of an experience you can deduct from that, but I think in terms of the later DLCs, okay, our emotion and our rational thinking, you can kind of, like, exist within either sort in different ways. You're an interesting fellow, PK. I value being able to analyze things. I think it is good. And, okay, whoa. This is a very clean looking penny that I just found. Aren't pennies like pennies made today not even really made with much copper or like any at all? Maybe they are. Because I'm pretty sure they'll still oxidize. I don't know. Pennies are supposed to be made with copper, right? I don't know. Who makes these rules? Shut up, Microsoft. Okay, I've also been thinking there's like different models for like archetypes, psychological archetypes, right? And usually it's kind of like redundant to try and actually use any of them. Now you can analyze specific patterns, usually when you're like trying to predict human behavior, psychological behavior. You look for specific like instances, right? And then you analyze based on, like, you analyze on a case by case basis, very specific things. So for example, if a person is a habitual like smoker or something, you can guess that they'll likely smoke in the future at least once. Um However, with these different like ways, these different archetypes, these overarching archetypes um of different kinds of people, like the 16 personalities. And this is where I, actually bring up the examples of that. 16 personalities, that's what it's called, right? With the INTJF, whatever. 16 personalities, like stars or astrology, star signs, stuff like that. Um, like, I feel like there is a lot of constructions we've made to like classify people based off different psychological archetypes. And usually, at least in my experience, what I find is that they're not very useful. Like, you can't, if you go and learn the 16 personalities, you'll basically just be able to like describe to someone, hey, this is your personality type based off of your behaviors. You can't really predict someone's future behavior. I mean, you might be able to, but I think it would be incidental. Like, you can't, how should I say this? First of all, the astrology thing is completely useless because you're trying to connect the orientation of different stars um to like someone's personality. Uh I think the only time you'd get that correct is like out of coincidence, or if they have like identified with their star sign, which, kind of, I'm spoiling a little bit of my conclusion here with this tangent. But with like the 16 personalities, you can't predict the exact thing someone would do, or like someone's exact preference in any given moment. You can't predict that using like their RINT archetype, their RINT archetype. Um, or at least maybe if you study enough, it'll yield more utility. I think, however, okay, moving along with this conversation, I think I'm going to posit a theory, okay, something I'm not completely 100%, you know, committed to. But in terms of like identifying people's uh higher level decisions, like their complex decision making, using the newer brain DLCs that we mentioned earlier. See, this is all building to a larger point. Okay, my brain is not turned into soup, I promise. Um yeah, a more useful way to analyze someone's higher level, or to predict someone's higher level behaviors, um, is to think of it as like aesthetic preferences. Okay, why do some people like to like doing music and then dislike other things arbitrarily? Like, let me think of an example. Actually, just music tastes. That is a great example of aesthetic preferences. Someone could, prefer rock music to pop or whatever. And, what metric are we using to determine what genre's objectively better? Music is a really good example for this kind of thing. What are we using to determine what makes objectively better music? There's really no way you can quantify that. Now you can set specific standards and say, hey, what music is the least derivative? And that would be like the best genre. But in terms of like the utility of music, which is inciting certain emotions, you can't really say, well, I mean, you could for a specific individual. But it's really difficult to say, oh, this is objectively, even that's just another standard, but it's difficult. You can't really say this is objectively the best music, because best is, that's not defined. You're saying, like, what music is the coolest? That would be like asking that question. Or or I guess, yeah. I'm sure my point has been made on that part. So, when you want to analyze someone's music taste, what kind of music they would like the most, the best way to do that is to ask, hey, what kind of genre of music do you like the most? Am I leading to a very obvious conclusion here? Kind of, sort of. I think you want to conceptualize these things. But, so yeah, if someone says, oh, I like country music, they're way more likely to, report liking a new country song that they hear in general than someone who says, oh, I don't really like country music. And you can apply that logic to or you can apply that that model to anyone's higher level behaviors. So if someone regularly makes appeals to like metaphysical notions or ideas, that may be a like viable avenue to communicate to them, where they will be more receptive to those ideas than someone who's like completely secular and just like, oh, everything. The only thing that is real is the things that I can see with my own eyes. Not to straw man that position, but what I really want to communicate here is how useful this could be to apply in your daily life. What's my point with this? Am I running out of juice? I can't run out of juice. I gotta keep explaining this. Yeah, so basically, a lot of our behavior, you kind of have to think of it in a more general way. A lot of our behaviors is motivated by our aesthetic preferences or our general tendencies, like arbitrary things that we have locked in as a preference. And this also applies to preference in game genres, whether you want to read or not, whether you like reading. Basically just like little tunnels people can go down in their brains as they develop throughout their life. That makes it more likely they'll find themselves comfortable in like a certain niche. And another aesthetic you can appreciate or identify with is being an intellectual. Now, the reason I use that specific phrasing, intellectual, is because some people in certain circles, and I can understand this, might actually, get the ick from hearing someone say something like, "Oh, I'm a self-described intellectual," because that brings up a lot of associations that we've made as a society, and that is an aesthetic preference. Hey, do I want to be a nerd? Do I want to be a freaking nerd, or do I want to be, what's a good rhetorical way to say this? Do I just want to not overthink it? Do I just want to go with the flow? No need to overthink it. Or like, don't be a nerd. No, you don't hear that as much. But generally, if you side with the aesthetic of like, I like the idea of being a smart fella, then you will be more receptive to the idea of like thinking about and learning these sorts of things. as opposed to just having like a mental wall. Um, and again, this applies to every other avenue, every other, many other, not every other, many other things in life. It can explain a lot of different things to some degree. Um, I guess another way to say this is that a lot of our preferences and things are subconscious choices that we make at some point to sort of like identify with or define ourselves in some way. Um, or in other words, if we say we can't do something or we say we can do something, we can't and can, respectively. Doing more thinking. Now, of course, it's incredibly nuanced. So, like, if we're talking about, sort of if someone like defines themselves as like, hey, I can't do programming, I'm an artist when it comes to game development. Someone defines themselves in that way. That can also be motivated by like the frustration you experience just from trying to do something for the first time you have no experience in. Like it can be a very discouraging feeling. Or pretty discouraging feeling. There are definitely more discouraging feelings out there. But it can be pretty discouraging. At least for me. And that can also kind of motivate it. That can push you into a different tube. So, you have to analyze things on a case-by-case basis. Like, we're not going to be able to just write the algorithm for human behavior. Like, it's not going to be a clean algorithm, like a thing you can write down in a few pages. It would have to be, something much more advanced than that. You can't just, like, it's impossible. Like, you would, if you wanted to express it in writing, you would need a flowchart of every possible thing, every neuron in someone's brain, and every possible action, every possibility in the universe pertaining and relating to that person. Just a flowchart to represent that. That would be the way to do it. Or if you wanted to simulate human behaviors, you can have approximations like neural networks, and stuff like that. If you wanted to simulate human behavior. But in terms of having like a rubric, like, hey, this is how people act, and trying to like deterministically figure out what they would do in any given situation, you would need something like that kind of flowchart. But I guess, general principles can be helpful, and that's kind of what I'm saying right now. I'm kind of giving a general principle. If you want to understand the later DLCs within the human mind and how they affect behavior, I think the best way to think about it is kind of like a neural network. People have behaviors and reinforcements, aesthetic preferences, and there's not a lot of rhyme or reason to it per se. It can express itself, as just like an arbitrary choice. It may be why, like, I feel like I'm super partial to like a single musical artist and can't like really branch out very easily. So I'm just so locked in mentally on like one at a time, or like the aesthetic preference is just so hyper specific. Like it's granular. It's your brain is a sandbox video game. Okay? You can't analyze it based off like, hey, here's the six personality types, and this is how they'll do everything in every single situation ever. And here's an infinitely long list of every situation and how they would respond. Or even like general tendencies. Basically, there will be contradictions within those personality archetypes that can better be explained by just arbitrations of the human mind. or like arbitrary choices of the human mind, just the way the neurons are written. So I think understanding this I think this is, self-awareness, I will say, is just a really good way to avoid getting locked into a specific way of thinking, a specific aesthetic preference, or at least being aware of it. Being aware of this idea and being aware of it within yourself basically allows you the freedom to change aesthetic preferences if you want, if that's something you actually want. So, and of course, it's useful. This can be useful to think of in terms of social interaction, like another way I can kind of say this is it's more useful to analyze specific behaviors, and I said this before, kind of. It's more useful to analyze specific behaviors than to try to make broad, sweeping generalizations and predictions. So if someone says they like flowers, you can bring up some flowers if you want. All right, but if someone looks at flowers and is like, oh, it's this weird organic, it probably has bugs on it, it has dirt, it's been in the ground, which is, I feel that within myself a little bit when it comes to something like plants. Okay, even something as random as like plants or like flowers or something, you can have aesthetic preferences for those. Like, do you associate flowers with, oh, smell the roses, I'm gonna run through this flower field, whoa? Or do you associate with, ew, the ground, going outside, touching grass, disgusting? And that can, that's like a thing. That's a thing. That is meaningful to that person and their preferences. So they will like flowers. They will not like the antithesis of flowers. Maybe they will, though, because again, the contradictions are there. So maybe, I don't even know what the opposite of flowers would be. It depends on their reasoning for liking flowers, which also is just something that's written into the neurons of someone's brain. Their reason for liking something, aesthetically enjoying it, you could say. I need a moment. I need a moment to load the chunks in my brain. I need to load in data from storage. Load it into my RAM. Maybe I can think of another example. Sunscreen. Okay, it's kind of a similar thing. I guess there probably isn't as many people who like the feeling of applying sunscreen. I'm one of the people who does not like the feeling of sunscreen. Applying, like basically covering yourself in like matrix pod goop. Because that is the aesthetic. Well, there may also be some like underlying like physiological reasons, or like some some earlier DLCs affecting that specific thing. But I think there's an aesthetic component to it for sure, because I'm associating it with, ew, matrix goop, get this off me, this is awful. And you know what? It could be another one of those things where you get pushed into certain tubes because of the underlying whatevers, because of the emotions. There's no... There is the objective construction of the human brain, and then there's human language and understanding things through the concept of like language and models and science and stuff like that. You can't really model the brain to the extent where you can predict behavior, at least not yet. It's very difficult to model the brain. And this is all relatively speaking. Like, maybe our brains will get smarter in a million years, and we can like think of these things easier. But in terms of like the standard we have right now for how models are, the complexity of them, very difficult to do. But there are people who try to research it. Also, like consciousness, what the hell? That's another conversation. But Yeah, the conclusion here, the takeaway. I want the takeaway to be, here's how you can use this thing and why it's very useful. And yeah, I would say judge those sorts of things on like a case by case basis versus having preconceived notions, essentially. You said the conclusion here at least 4 times now. I'm enjoying this rambling. Maybe if I took more time to think about it, I could like arrange it in like an essay where I only say the conclusion once. I'm trying to think of potentially other examples. I guess I've mainly said what I was trying to say for the most part. Nothing is impossible, but in our brains, things can be made to feel impossible for us to do, given our identity that we've constructed of ourselves and our aesthetic preferences and yada yada yada. You now know everything if you're listening to this stream. I think a lot of aesthetic preferences went into sort of fueled the drama. The drama. I don't even want to call it drama. The pillaging, is that maybe an applicable term, of pirate software in his stream? I think a lot of people just did not like the aesthetic of someone who makes YouTube shorts and just speaks authoritatively about and super confidently about random things, like a know-it-all. And their aesthetic interpretation of that is, this guy's a know-it-all, and could probably drive a lot of those behaviors. I think I've felt this before, if you see a certain kind of behavior in someone and you just reflexively get angry at it, like you're getting angry at it before you can explain why it's actually wrong for them to be doing that thing. If you ever get that kind of feeling, it's kind of a similar thing that I'm talking about. Like whether someone would pass gas with around people they know and just be fine with it, and someone who wouldn't do that, that is another kind of one of those like aesthetic preferences. For the record, I'm more on the side of, hey, I'm not gonna do that around other people. That's a good example, actually. And it wouldn't make sense to group people based off of like, to seriously try and group people based off of like, there are holders and there are sniffers. I think is I'm kind of quoting something that I heard, some system this one guy made. I forget where I heard it from, but no, that's another example. That's a very relevant example. It wouldn't make any sense to like make archetypes based off. It wouldn't be very helpful, I don't think. You can just decide in that moment, okay, that is the kind of person to do that thing. That person has decided in some section of their brain, in one of the DLCs or multiple, in some way, potentially, that is something they'll just do. So yeah, I think once you start looking at it that way, the conclusion here, okay, the conclusion to cap this off once and for all, the last time I'm gonna say it, maybe not, who knows? The conclusion is that, oh shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh shit. No conclusion for you. You don't get any conclusion. Apologies. But yeah, to summarize, I'm going to summarize now. I'm not going to conclude. I'm going to summarize. I was so ready for that. Yeah. Well, the summary here is that, you know, you should make determinations in that way versus like a more generalized system. Essentially. And also, it's like a side thing, like, trust people when they act in certain ways. Like, trust that that is just what they'll do. Like, humans are, you know, have complex brains, but there's a limit to that. We have developed language, we have developed tools that are sort of able to technologically compound on themselves as time goes on. But, you know, our brains really aren't that much more complicated than any other organism. We just have reached certain thresholds that have allowed us to do certain things. They're thresholds. It's not like a linear scale with the smarter you are, the more technology you get. No, we're like, okay, this is monkey right here. Okay, you keep moving in the smarter direction. Like, it's not like, oh, spear, gun, nuclear bomb, rocket. No, it's like monkey, spear, gun, nuclear bomb, rocket, all that technology. You breach the threshold. So human psychology is also not very complicated if you think about it in this way. People have aesthetic preferences. I say aesthetic for lack of a better term. It's really just like pre-made decisions on how they will behave. And unless they're consciously trying to do otherwise, they will act within those boundaries consistently. There is no greater determinator of someone's future behaviors than their past behaviors. But when I say trust people's behaviors and what that says about them, yeah, like if someone does something, they're not having a bad day. They're not just having a bad, I mean, sometimes, you know, environmental circumstances, of course. But it can be reproduced. It can be reproduced. And some other people will just not do that thing in those same circumstances. Rocket science isn't that hard if you think about it like this. Yes, exactly. No, in terms of rocket science, I think that you can learn anything. You can learn anything you want. Quantum mathematics and physics just seems, it's just aesthetically difficult. There's, you know, a skill curve for sure, but it's not like some impossible thing that only certain IQ levels can access. Assuming you're like the median person, if you go down the right avenues mentally, you can just like, it's all out there. The internet, okay? The information is out there. You can just go through the steps and figure out how quantum physics works. You can get like a basic understanding of quantum physics if you want. And like you can figure out the process. Maybe what you'll determine is that, oh my god, these equations you have to do for the quantum physics bullshit is like, you have to do a lot of them and they're super repetitive, but you can learn the equations. It's like a language. In other words, I think learning something like that is no more difficult than like learning a language. I think any new skill that you learn is like learning a language. And the people we think of as like particularly intelligent just have more of that language understood. It's like, again, if you literally think of it, or not literally, but if you think of it as a language, okay, they have a much greater foundation as opposed to someone who literally has not heard a single word of that language before. And the language I'm referring to would be like mathematical equations, for example. Like someone who is extremely experienced with that and it is like written it into their brain versus someone who has no experience. Of course, there's going to be a huge skill gap there. And then the people we think of, you know, physics geniuses are just the people who have those. I don't want to say DLCs because I don't want to like conflate concepts here. who have those little modules installed, those knowledge modules installed in their brain, the right configuration, can just do a lot of stuff. They can do a lot of stuff with that. So yeah, I don't think there's anything that like someone with like a functioning brain couldn't learn if the resources are provided to them. Like with enough persistence, you can just write it into your brain. You can just do that. That is a thing that you can do. And any notion where it's like that's not a thing I can do. Is just a construction. Is just an arbitrary construction. It has no objective basis. And a lot of times I cater to the aesthetic of objective reasoning. Although I'm misled all the time in my various thoughts. Like it's very difficult to think of everything as like this procedural deduction of just what is objectively true. Like doing everything, I don't think there's anyone who does everything through like a scientific process. That being said, usually knowing what's objectively true, being able to know what's objectively true is helpful when you exist in a world that is subject to, you know, those rules and those objective truths. 1 second, I'm gonna restart my PC. All right, Redstone. I have just been rambling forever. I'm gonna run an ad break because the auto ads manager is not on right now. And I may continue rambling. I might. Yeah. The conclusion here, oh shit, I can't forget. The summary of what I'm saying is there are things you can write into your brain, and then there are like things you can learn. There's the objective construction of your brain, how you can slot things into it, and then there is constructions of the mind, the constructions of the brain that you tell yourself. Feedback loops. Okay, the brain is a machine. Learn to use write those neurons, write the neurons that let you know about the neurons. Okay? I don't understand anything about the construction of the brain. Well, I guess I understand like a thing, literally a thing or two, a concept or two relating to it. But apparently neurons are only like on the outside of the brain, and then in the middle of the brain you have axons which transmit signals to like different sides. So that's like a whole thing. I wish I kind of knew that before, you know, making or trying to design an AI character system based off of the mechanics of the human brain, game mechanics. So I think I should probably look into that stuff more before I try and keep working on that system. Because I didn't even know axions were a thing. Well, I've heard the word before, but I kind of just forgot, you know? It's like part of my brain was like, huh, axions. I wonder if that's like meaningful. Meanwhile, my actual behavior was, neurons are the only thing that exist and are important. All right, I think I've done enough rambling for now. That was, wow, that was, I feel like I learned a little bit. I feel like I solidified some ideas within myself with that one. Okay, people are the way they act. All right, there you go. And nothing else. And okay, amending, and nothing else. I'm simplifying. Did I run that through GDScript? I do not know. I think it might be working now, though. Oh, shoot. Let me run it one more time through GDScript. I don't know if I was running that through GDScript or not. I don't remember. I do not know. Well, it seems like I've used my caffeine energy on rambling about random shit for an hour. Rambling. That's another thing you can write into your brain. All right, and you got all those other different variables and stuff. Like, what is the aesthetic preference I have about the idea of rambling? What are my rambling skills like? You know, that whole thing. Those other things that are things and real ideas. Yeah, I would say I'm not someone who has an aesthetic deterrence from rambling for rambling. Also, maybe I should speak a little bit more on the causes of different aesthetic preferences. It can literally just be like societal pressure in for a lot of things. That can be one cause. Like those are the kinds of things that cause it. Or like, fear responses. You can deduce something in a like rational way and say, "Hey, this is a thing I should do or something." Morality is kind of like that. I think we have basic mechanisms for like empathy and stuff like that, but all of the ideological components of morality, those are also kind of like those sorts of things. Ideas. I'm kind of just talking about ideas right now. It's another way of saying it. The world is a limitless playground of ideas and possibilities for you to explore. But also, a lot of it requires money. You need money to do a lot of things, and if you don't have that, then womp womp, quite frankly. Okay. No errors. Cool. Cool. Wasn't there like something we were trying to do with this? I think we want to check if we're still getting the whatever. Oxidation reaction? Yeah, I suppose. Let's print full name, print oxidizer name. And I guess technically it would be better to use print new line. Okay, look. You can fail at things, you can fail to deduce things, you can think of things in the wrong way, you can be bad at a skill, okay, but you can always iterate and keep trying. Because we are not machines created to just know everything and do everything the correct way. No. We're machines, but like in a cool way, in a way that isn't dehumanizing. We are machines that are just designed to respond to certain stimuli and like survive. Like our first and foremost goal is not being objectively correct about everything and doing everything correctly. But the one saving grace there assuming you're interested in doing things correctly, is you can try again. You can try and keep trying, okay? Also, we're not getting the chemical reaction. Damn it. This is bullshit. Kind of cool what I can do with the tail, though. That was kind of cool. I don't know if you saw that, the way I kind of like caught the barrel. That was pretty cool. All right, it's not prompting the reaction. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. We're also printing the product here. I didn't see that. Oh no, I'm getting tired. No, my limitless well of energy is starting to subside. Oh my god. This is so sad. Shut up. Why is this not working? Okay. My first guess would be the uh, elements are not being added properly. In the right way. This is the local system. Okay, let's print L component, or kind of sounds like I'm saying Al component. That sounds funny. Print new line. L component dot element dot name. Get the freaking element name, please. Go. Okay, it does say oxygen. That is messed up. Why isn't it working? No. Console dot print new line L component dot element dot get element name. Chemical collision dot reactants dot append L component. What are we using? Okay, we're using target system for like the ID and stuff like that. But the localization, you could say. It should be checking for the reaction here. I'm not sure what's going on. Are we at least prompting the reaction like at all? Oxidation. It's time to oxidize. Like, are the tags correct? Is that another thing? Wow. Locating barrel. What? What do you mean? This is not right. Context that give reactants per roll fuel. Fuel name. Print this. Print the thing, please. And print the oxy. Why don't I just print this actually? That could work. C# 0 dash 00. What does this mean, Redstone? We need to attack one of these barrels. It's probably it's probably using the wood on the dragon as fuel, because the dragon is made out of wood, apparently. It's a face. It's true. Yeah, and it's an array. Well, do we have any oxidizers? Let me get our oxidation on. Would be splendid. Was I just not hitting the barrel before? Is that why it wasn't printing? I do not remember. Did you end up seeing the faces I did for Carbricks? I didn't. I should look in the Discord server after stream. That's what I should do. Oh my god, it's empty. Oh, it's colliding with the iron. Wait, that's funny. Um, why are we not getting any oxidizers? I added oxygen. Okay, I added it. Collision dot reactants. What is involved here? Are we actually registering the oxygen, or are you just doing some stupid bullshit right now? What's going on? It was able to detect uh the reaction in the first place, right? But that only requires one of the necessary components, doesn't it? I don't remember. Hmm. Interesting. Zero dot component dot element dot name get element name. I need to add like the force or something to this game so you can throw enemies around like in that one Star Wars game. Think you're gonna love them? I look forward to it. I'm I'm anticipating the moment. Where the hell are the barrels? Here we go. Just says wood. So I don't think it's actually adding our oxygen. No. No. It's effed up. Okay. Chemical collision dot reactants dot append L component. Where are we doing this? Where the hell are we doing this? Hold on. Initialize behavior. Spaghetti code. Here we go. Here we go. And then we collide here. I feel like it should work. I feel like it should work. Atmosphere.adds collision, chemical collision, system. We get the system response. Orthographic area. Get node collision shape. Force? Wait, what are we using the force for? For the reactant. Okay. I see. Well, I'm trying to add it right here, and I'm pretty sure we were able to print oxygen before. Print or console dot print new line. L reactant dot component dot element dot get element name. So now we're trying to verify if we are indeed adding oxygen to the reaction or not, or if I am just insane. If I'm a crazy person. Oxygen, wood, oxygen, wood. Oh my god. No. Very sad. How's it even, like, running, then? Okay, hold on. We gotta go farther. We gotta go farther in. For component in chemical collision dot reactant. Okay, for reactant, chemical collision dot reactants. Console print new line. Reactant dot component dot element dot get element name. Go over to oxidation reaction. Everyone's favorite script section. Once it prints ash, we know we're getting the result we want. Where was I? Entity. Okay. Print new line, component dot element, get element name. So this should tell us all of the components we have in our reaction, which should include wood and oxygen, at least. It's only printing wood. Okay. Why would you do this? Collision. Chemical collision dot reactants. Add to collision. Chemical collision dot reactants dot append L component. Will this print it? I know we have oxygen in the atmosphere. Why isn't this working? This is quite the conundrum. If we try using the component directly, does it make a difference? We were printing oxygen here before, so I don't know what's going on. We'd be getting an error? Added oxygen. Wood. It just says wood. It's the same collection. What the hell? Gonna head out. Alright, see you, Redstone. Thanks for stopping in. I'm gonna check out your game after stream. I want to see what the progress is. Heck, it's just an array. Thanks, Redstone. I'll probably end it a little bit here. This is very interesting. I don't know why this is happening. The only other thing I'm suspecting currently is some sort of GD script error, which I guess I could test for next. Yeah, because we're adding it right here. Okay, hold on. What if we do like the most basic shit imaginable? Print new line L component, and then wait, no, print this, and then print it after. Does anything happen to this thing we're indexing in the exact same way? I want to know. I want to know what's going on here. Why? What? 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 That is... Should I look at what the append function does? Okay, run through GD script. This is very strange. It's possible that the component is deemed like null somehow. Or maybe the reference goes out of scope. I'm really not sure. Yeah, reason that you use append on an array, right? Oh, well, it's not a reactant. That could have something to do with it. Why weren't we getting an error for that, though? I guess maybe the typed array doesn't necessarily give an error, or maybe I was getting one, it just wasn't stopping the project. Ooh, okay. It's not inherit from GDScript. Well, it probably does inherit, well, not from GDScript. Okay. Right, and we're adding the component, we should be adding the reactant. Interesting. Well, that must be the problem. Are we getting the reaction now? Is it our time? Is our time here? Are we winning? Will all of our dreams come true? I would love to see this. Oh my god! Can't get to the barrel. I need to do something with the swimming physics. Okay, cool. Now we're getting ash, and we can set things on fire again. Kinda. Not really. Not yet. I can't really say that we can do that yet, can I? I haven't really earned the right. Okay, oxidation. Make sure we're not... Well, let me go to entity and get rid of that other print statement. Leave. Is there like a toString method we can override? Because that might be useful for some debugging purposes. All right. Now what? Oh, we were doing this so we could like change the temperature and everything like that. Okay, so now we can actually start implementing the reaction, kinda, sorta. Which means, oh, didn't I say I was gonna think about how we're gonna like determine the rate of energy transfer and stuff like that? Damn. Okay, I still feel the um I still feel the universe speaking to me through the caffeine gods. They're speaking to me a little bit. Maybe hold on, I gotta think. I gotta think about what to do. I gotta think about what to do. Because I'm trying to figure out the most uh elegant way with our system to represent like the flashpoint, I think it's called. Auto ignition temperature, perhaps. Like we could just write in the auto ignition temperature, but it would be nice to have something a little more um simulatable. So we might be able to use it for other things as well. So maybe like instead of uh auto ignition temperature, we could have just like two energy levels. Like the energy required to or the energy released by oxidation and the energy required to oxidize. And then based off of that we could determine the auto ignition temperature. So I guess maybe a good way to start would be to look up how to calculate auto ignition temperature. Are they measured? Probably can't calculate. There's probably no formulas or algorithms. That's the thing. Like, no one's come up with this stuff yet. It frustrates me. The internet is not actually just like this endless well of of divine knowledge. Auto ignition temperature. Okay, there's a lot of names. Is the lowest temperature at which it spontaneously ignites of a substance is the lowest temperature at which it spontaneously ignites in a normal atmosphere without an external source of ignition, such as a flame or spark. Okay. Whoa. Auto ignition time equation. The time it takes a material to reach its auto ignition temperature when exposed to a heat flux is given by the... Is a flux a flow of energy? Holy shit. Heat flux is a flow of energy per unit area per unit time. The caffeine is helping me. The caffeine is helping me. It's speaking to me. Okay. K is thermal conductivity, P is density, and C is specific heat capacity. Does this apply to gases and stuff like that? It's the initial temperature of the material, or the... This doesn't have anything... This doesn't include in any way like its ability to oxidize, which is a little bit concerning. The thermal conductivity. Explosive fire behavior. Maybe we should look at the original source for this. Oh, jeez. This is a book. Okay, can I look at some other internet result? A simple method for estimating the auto ignition temperature of shut up. Of a solid energetic materials with this. I got an ad, that's why I said shut up. With a single non-isothermal DSC or DTA curve. I don't have a curve. Damn it. Of a gas. You can do it for a gas. You can do it for a solid. Okay, well, conceptually. No, not conceptually. Never mind. What am I talking about? So oxidation happens a little bit naturally, right? There's like a little bit of heat, which prompts it. That's its energy input, right? Let me look that up. Does oxidation happen faster in warmer temperatures? I know fire, happens faster. Okay. So the temperature does just increase it a little bit. So you have like an energy input and then like an energy output per volume, I would assume, for like instance of oxidation. So really this is a ratio. This is an oxidation ratio. This is an energy. This can be thought of as a temperature ratio. Okay? Where the amount we're putting in corresponds to a certain output. But once it's oxidized, it can't double oxidize. That would be not correct. So really, when fire happens, it's because the total energy input, whether given from its own oxidation reaction or outside sources, is so high that the energy output is high enough to start the reaction again somewhere else. So I think we would probably need two numbers for that. We wouldn't be able to represent it as a ratio. Yeah. Boom. So yeah, energy input required for oxidation. How do we get these numbers though, man? I guess we could go backwards, right? Or maybe not. Maybe. How, like, if we get the amount of energy put in and the amount of energy put out, we could, like, do something with that. And I guess the temperature output of a fire would just be the temperature of fire, right? We would have to include the heat in some way, though. Yeah. Well, yeah, it would include the conductivity. It would. It would do that. Let's go back to that Wikipedia article for a second. Oh, the time it takes for it to reach its auto ignition temperature. Oh. Oh. Oh, okay. Um, Thermal conductivity, specific heat capacity. Specific heat capacity. This, this, the amount of heat that must be added to 1 unit of mass of the substance in order to cause an increase of 1 unit in temperature. Okay. Thermal conductivity. So I guess thermal conductivity is how much it transfers through it, and then specific heat capacity is how much it accepts. Kinda, sorta, maybe. We're gonna need thermal conductivity anyways, so probably like a thing we could do. How much of this stuff can we calculate? Also, the auto ignition temperature is like bullshit. Thermal conductivity. Zero is the initial temperature of the material. Okay. And I'm assuming all of these auto ignition temperatures were determined by just lighting them on fire or raising their temperature and then measuring when it does the thing. Iron can catch on fire? What? It's crazy. This also lets us this equation here would let us figure out how quickly the energy would increase. But is this for solids only? Yeah. I feel like we need different equations for different states of matter. Um we could create like functions to transfer energy between components. That would probably be the best spot for it. We have a system. We have a good framework here. Um okay. So we might just want to represent this as the auto ignition temperature. We might just want to do that. I guess iron can oxidize, huh? Wait, but this is given standard atmospheric conditions. Shit. Oh no. I would like to go one step above. How to calculate auto ignition temperature of a substance. Ah. This is a Reddit thread. How to calculate auto ignition temperature at various pressures. Oh, this has a lot of variables involved. Oh no. Oh no. Not what I'm looking for. Okay, auto ignition temperature of a substance with oxygen density. What? Okay, shut up, AI overview. You don't know anything. That's not possible. This is like we're running into certain problems here, guys. Name of this auto ignition temperature. Damn. And that's just the auto ignition temperature within the atmosphere. We don't know what the temperature would be like with some other oxidizer. That kind of also means the auto ignition temperature is going to have to be done per whatever. Although we could use the average density of the atmosphere, right? And then calculate that for oxygen. And then we could, I don't know if it would scale linearly. I really don't know. That could give us a basis though. A basis to work off of. Yeah, it kind of also means our combustion pairs are actually going to need to contain our auto ignition temperature. Oh no, but it should be per density. Right. Right. Auto ignition, that's one word, I'm pretty sure. But you know, who decides that? I don't know. Whatever. Someone decided to make that one word. It wasn't one word initially. It could have been hyphenated. It could have been spaced. This is all made up. Nothing is real. Auto ignition ratio. We gotta define this like a nerd. The ratio of density to, I don't even, this is probably not even like a good way to do it if we really want accurate calculations, but this is a start. Should we do this as pressure or density? The ratio of density to temperature of things. I'd also just be able to say ratio for this. Wait, but this is for auto ignition. Do we want to do it for auto ignition or do we just want to have a general ratio? Because we do also want some non-combustion oxidation. Do we really need that, though? Yes. Yes, we do. We need things to rust. No, we don't. We really don't. We really don't need that. It would be cool, though. It would be cool to have. Ugh, I don't know. I don't know, guys. This is pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy what we're doing right now. It's Pretty groundbreaking. Extremely innovative. The ratio of density to temperature, something, something. We should calculate. Never mind. Could we think of it as like input output ratio? Okay, the amount of energy, the temperature ratio per density. Would that work? Uh, mm, we'd also have to represent different states of matter. Another thing. Because when it's a gas, it's going to be much easier to interact with the other things versus when it's a solid. The ratio of density to temperature. I feel like I'm learning about physics by doing this. I most certainly am. It's just the question is to what extent? The ratio of density to... Okay, so temperature ratio. The temperature ratio would be the amount it outputs. The ratio of temperature output to input, or input to output. The ratio of temperature input to output per mass per density. Holy moly. Right? We could deduce all those numbers from the various informational things, I would think. We don't really... How could we calculate the energy output per volume, though? Like, where do we get that? We get that from anywhere? Because with fire, it's like different, right? Or something. It's difficult to approximate all these things without using like an actual atomic model. It might be easier to just use threshold values. Although I think we could use the auto ignition, at least do auto ignition temperature per density. I feel like that would be doable enough, and we could do that per state of matter. But figuring out how much something outputs in an oxidation, how much temperature, how much energy it outputs in an oxidation reaction, given the current temperature, I guess it's the energy potential, variables that determine the energy potential, right? Density, stuff like that. the distance. It would have to be like an average probably of a certain volume. I think the compromise here is going to be to just have an auto ignition temperature per density and then uh have like the standard oxidation rate. Yes. Yes. Okay. The ratio of density to auto ignition temperature. What is the standard density of gas in atmosphere? Oh, standard density of oxygen in atmosphere. Let me double check that. What is the density of oxygen in the atmosphere? .429 grams per liter. Or 1,430 grams per meter cubed. Okay. We are calculating the density, though, based off of the molar mass now, though. Right? Also, this is just the density of oxygen. Like, I want to figure out what its proportion is in the atmosphere. How much oxygen is in the atmosphere proportionally? Oxygen constitutes approximately 21% of the Earth's atmosphere by volume. How dense is the air in the atmosphere? Okay, yeah, so this is bullshit. I've cracked the code. I've cracked the code. It's 1,225 grams per meter cubed. 1,225. They're trying to hide this information from you. So 1,225 divided by whatever the hell 0.21 or multiplied by 0.21. 257.25. Okay. What is the density of oxygen in the atmosphere proportional to other gases? Yeah, but that's pure oxygen gas. Okay, well. Anyways, we would divide the auto ignition temperature of something like wood, which can probably be approximated with paper. We're going to say like 225 degrees Celsius divided by 257.25. Wait, what did I say? I forgot. Oh, no. Very sad. Let's just add a constant to remember this. It's probably going to be temporary. So 225 divided by 257.25. So that would make the auto ignition ratio of this particular reaction about this number. It's probably not at all how we should be doing this to determine this actual thing. But with more oxygen... Oh my god. Hold on, what is the auto ignition... whatever. What is the auto ignition temperature of wood in pure oxygen gas? Boom. Damn it, pillow. Okay, give me a freaking search result. What are you looking at here? Stop, Quora. Wait. Guy Lussac's law. Random physics concept. I know that as the oxygen content of a fuel/oxygen mixture is increased, the auto ignition temperature decreases. Temperature will increase with pressure. Damn it. Damn it. No, that's not what I'm trying to do. Welcome back, Redstone. Trying to figure out what the hell planet we're living on right now. I'm trying to learn about the planet. I can't find the auto ignition temperature of wood in pure oxygen gas. What the hell? What the hell? Gonna be right back, grabbing coffee and snacks. Alright, gotcha. Ignition temperature, ignition time. That's with higher heat. Wait, what? Heat flux. Temperature, heat flux. What does it mean? What does it mean? Oh, here we go. Oh, but this is for gases. It's not even that much. Well, for some of these, it's a lot lower. Wow. Wow. Which also kind of tells me it's going to vary a lot with different temperatures. No! Oh my god. This sucks. How do I calculate this, man? How do I calculate this? It's like every day we have to make a new system to do some other bullshit. It's like every day is a new science lesson. I think it varies so much depending on if you have something igniting or not, if it is pure. Yeah, it depends on the pressure around, it depends on the density of oxygen, it depends on what kind of oxidizer you're using, it depends on a bunch of stupid stuff. It's not redstone. That's the problem here. You can't just look up what is the algorithm I can put into my game to create the universe from scratch and simulate the particles. You can't just look that up. That is the problem. So I have to make some kind of compromises here. Or go full quantum, which I don't want to do. But if you go full quantum, you can run your own simulations and then get whatever value you need. Or maybe you go full bore even. Nope. Whoa, that's a really good pun, right? Because that's like a thing people say. We're going full bore into this project. Yeah, that's like drill terminology, right? I don't know. You can compare it to other gases into a middle ground. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Also, how if wood is theoretically able to oxidize with some other substance, how am I gonna calculate that if there's no measurements for it online? I'm gonna have to set up like a chemistry lab and simulate like do everything in real life. Redstone. I need to know the exact chemical properties of every substance on Earth, every substance known to man in every possible condition. Get on it. Get on it. 2 seconds. Yeah. I'll get back to you with that one, on that one. God. Why am I doing this to myself? Okay. We can manage auto ignition, whatever. Yes. I could use float curves for some of this stuff, but then I'd really have to rely on measurements. I can't send the data. Yeah, it's the cat ate it, or the dog ate the data. Not enough storage in the world. Yeah. Probably not enough storage in my brain to remember all that information, to be honest. Okay, well, does auto-ignition temperature have to lower with density? No, it doesn't. That's not a hard requirement of this chemistry engine. That reminds me of my pig brain storage idea. Interesting. Oh, is that like some sort of organic-based storage hard drive device? I wonder if you can you grow neurons? Can you grow them? Can they be self-replicating at all? Probably not. What makes the neurons? Big brains probably have around 2 petabytes of data. It's a lot of data, I'm assuming, based on a human brain having 2.5-ish, yes. So pigs remember everything, basically. Petabytes, yeah. 1,000 terabytes. Actually, 2,000 terabytes is. If the human brain only has 2,500 terabytes, dude, that's like 2,500 people's hard drives. That's not a lot. That can't be right. I have more data in my brain than that. Surely I have at least. How many? Like at least 100,000 terabytes. I don't know. I say me, but I'm actually kind of talking about the human brain in general. Very good size to storage though, and cheap to run. Sure, yeah. I mean, compared to like hardware, like computer hardware that we have, it's like 15 watts for a brain or something. I forget. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how I'm gonna solve this problem, this auto ignition problem. Well, I guess I would really like it to differ with density, but I don't think we're gonna be able to figure it out today. I can't, my fingers stopped working. I can't type with the keys anymore. Oh no. Anyway, snacks. Redstone, I'm probably gonna end stream here, so just so you know. This is probably my time to get back to work. I did my 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's the world's longest shift. Everyone knows. Everyone knows. If I could sit down and grind out streams and, like, actually be able to make a living off of it, I would do it. I would definitely do that. That's like, anyone would want to do that, I think. I'm generalizing, but that's, like, said to be a thing that, like, people would do. It's considered an easy job. Gotta be doing a 9 to 5 as a stream. Honestly, yes. No. Honestly, no. Like a 9-hour, or like an 8-hour shift is like, you stand there, and then you stand there, and the hours go by, and the hours go by, and the hours go by, and your entire day is just that. That's like how time works, right? The more of it you do, the more you experience. Or, like, the longer something is, the longer it feels. The longer a span of time is, the longer it is. Most people don't know this. Well, we're gonna have to figure. I think there's definitely an avenue. Like, there's definitely an avenue we can go through to, like, get a good chemistry inclusion into the chemistry system with all this. But it's like, we got to figure it out. And there's no way in hell we're going to simulate the quantum whatevers. So we're going to have to compromise. That's really all that's been concluded here, though. It's not like, we're not like, oh no, we just can't have fire in the chemistry, and we can't have the chemistry engine. No, we're nowhere near that. There's always a way. There's enough information to get somewhere. But that will have to be figured out in another day. Wednesday, which is the next time I'll be streaming. Make sure you look at the Carbreak server. I shall. But yeah, I'm going to end it here, so thank you everyone who stopped in. Redstone, you're the only chatter today. And on YouTube, Twitch and YouTube. Yeah, I'll be live again on Wednesday. I imagine I'd be streaming this, but who knows? I do so many things. I do so many things. I do one Kenshi stream in like 100 days of game development, and I'm kind of a variety streamer. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it is. But yeah, I'm gonna end it here. Take care. I will miss you, PK. I will miss you too, Redstone. See you all on Wednesday. Take care. I'm doing the hand wave now as I click the button. Goodbye. I am still Zoo.